Second by Mr. Hoffman. Discussion. Mr. Pilon, do you want to read the amendments? I mean, the changes to the bill? Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I strongly support this. As we all know, the commission has been established a while ago. We hope they populate it and begin work on it. The changes to the amendment that Chair Yvonne proposes are in the first page, section 1, subsection 2-226, commission established. And subsection B, sentence 2 strikes some of all in the second sentence. And also another change on our first page is on sentence 4. It inserts traditional Native Hawaiian burial practices as practiced prior to foreign contact. So we're in strong support of that. Those were the first changes in that first section too. I wish to reference at this time section 2, subsection 2-229, powers and duties. The changes with of great improvement is in subsection I, which strikes the word may and inserts shall. It also inserts a new section in J. The commission shall make recommendations to the State Historic Preservation Officer and the Hawaii Island Burial Council on the appropriate management, treatment, and protection of Native Hawaiian burial sites which are customary with traditional Native Hawaiian burial practices. And they change, the fourth change, third on this page, is a renumbering. It strikes J and inserts K. With that, again, I reiterate that this is a very good commission, and this council is moving it ahead, and I strongly support it. Thank you.
Okay, so now on the floor is Bill 333 up for discussion. Anyone here in Kona discuss this matter at this time? How about in Hilo? Any discussion out of Hilo?
Mr. Chair,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nishi.
we don't have that amendment.
Okay, it's actually on the bill itself, Mr. Onishi. You were just reading the changes on the actual bill, 333. So the yellow bill.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Just for the record, let the record reflect that Mr. Yoshimoto has joined us at this time. Is there any further discussion out of Hilo? If not, I can certainly do some, make some comments here in Kona. Anything out in Hilo?
Well,
Hearing none.
I'll just make one fast one.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say that yeah, I do also support this. Back I think it was the last session, the state session. They were, as someone mentioned about that they were trying to put all the different borough councils into just one, which would be the state, and they wanted to take away the county's, I guess, responsibilities. And I did send a testimony to, at that time, was House Representative Jerry Chang, who was in charge of, I think, Water and Land, which was being heard in, and told him I was opposed against that. And it was where the legislature did not pass that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion here in Kona? If not, I can see make a few comments. Go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. In working with members of our community and whatnot, especially the Hawaiian community, they feel this is very important, and it will go a long way to close the gap between the state, county, and the community. As we heard from testimony today, there's been a lot of hardships with the Hawaiian community being able to participate in some of their processes, whether they have to fly to Honolulu or whether the decision making is happening in Honolulu versus our island. And they hope that this commission will be able to provide a voice and close the gap and the disconnect so their views can be fairly represented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd just like to say that the Article 44 here relating to the Hawaii County Cultural Resource Commission. This commission was actually voted upon by the Hawaii County Council back in 2008. At that time, Councilmember Emily Naioli introduced the bill that actually was passed by the Hawaii County Council. So this commission has been on the county code since 2008. The commission has not been established as of yet. It is my understanding that the administration is now moving forward in all, I think, commissions, trying to get some of the vacancy filled and it's my understanding that they're doing the same for the this particular commission as well. And that's why I think it's very important that we pass these amendments to the commission prior to the formulation of that. And just to let you folks know, I really want to give credit to the Hawaiian community that did come forth and came to talk to me about, number one, resurrecting or pushing this commission forward, because obviously the Hawaiian community felt that this was a commission that was sorely needed, so that the community had a voice, whether it be in the preservation, establishment, of protecting their cultural resources, as well as history. But in asking to have this commission come forward and encouraging the administration to set up this commission, they also came forward with their concerns in regards to Kapuna Iwi. And many of the concern, and that's one of the criteria for having someone on the commission, was to make sure that a person with special interest in architecture, history, archaeological, planning, architectural history, Hawaiian culture, and we added on traditional native Hawaiian burial practice as practiced prior to foreign contact. And the reason the Hawaiian community wanted that in place was that many of the actions taken now by the Burial Council and by government is that when they do find EVs in place, the first or one of the options that is followed through almost on most occasions is to remove and relocate. And you heard some of the testimony by some of the people of the Hawaiian community today, asking that that is not really the traditional practice, prior to a foreign contact. So it's important that we have someone on the commission with with that interest and with that knowledge and certainly with that respect as we continue to grow as a county and deal with obvious concerns regarding EVs. And of course, the other thing that the Hawaiian community felt was important was that this commission, make recommendation to the State Historic Preservation Officer and the Hawaiian Island Burial Council, for appropriate management and treating to protect these native sites. So I think this is important, and we all, and I was really appreciative of the testimony that came forward that said that this is actually in the state constitution that said that we must protect all, the host cultural rights. And so this, I truly believe, is part of that as well. So, and council members, I hope that we get your support with this. And I think the timing of this is important because as applications go out to commissions, people that have this interest in traditional burial practice, that type of person be sought and make sure that that person is on this commission. So I hope that I get all my colleagues' support with this. I think it's very important. Okay, Mr. Palago, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the second opportunity, sir. There are two things I wish to point out in respect to this. This commission has been established quite a while ago. We need to make sure it becomes an action item and is adhered to by the administration. It's very important that these kinds of commissions also be, we set the example, that the other counties and the other mayors establish similar commissions within their bodies of government. I think if Oahu had set that up, they would not have the problems they are having in respect to rail now. So that is one issue that the native voice need to be put in there. The power of this change and the power of your submissions, Mr. Chair, is critically important because it brings us back into traditional customary and cultural practices. A lot of the times, those times where there had been uncovering inadvertent and deliberate of Native Hawaiian burials and iwi, is that they be treated in a Western manner. So that is contradictory to our traditional practices. Your noting that brings us back to this need for balance on even footing with traditional and customary practices and contemporary land use practices. So thank you for that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Ward.
Just want to ask you a question, if it's all right. On page 2, in both in I and J, you've used the word shall. In fact, in I, you're taking out the word may and replacing with shall. it is your intention the word shall will mean must. It is the imperative.
That is correct.
Okay, and the same thing with the word shall in new section J. They must do it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, before we go to the vote, Madam Clerk, I do want to especially thank, from the Pele Defense Fund and other Hawaiian communities, but especially the, Pele Defense Fund, Polikapu Dedman, as well as, Terry Napiahi, that did tremendous legwork in this as far as talking with the Hawaiian community and helping to bring this forward. So, to both Polikapu and Terry, mahalo for their good work on this. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Ford?
Ms. Ford?
Ms. Ford?
I'm sorry, I can't hear her. Ms. Ford? Thank you. Aye. Mr. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Ikeda?
Aye.
Mr. Onishi?
Aye.
Mr. Kalago?
Aye.
Ms. Smart? Aye. Mr. Yoshimoto?
Aye.
Chair Yugon?
Aye.
Chair Yugon, you have 8 ayes.
Thank you. Bill 333 passes first reading. Madam Clerk, let's go to page 6, please. And let's take on order of the day, second or final reading, Resolution 308-12, Draft 2, please.
Resolution 308-12 Draft 2 provides for the acquisition of easements in private property by eminent domain, being a portion of tax map key numbers 3274118 and 3272765, situated at Papa'iko, District of South Hilo, to provide a pedestrian public access easement to the beach at Papa'iko. Authorizes Corporation Council to initiate proceedings in eminent domain as provided by law for the taking, acquisition, and condemnation of the foresaid easement over private property, and to negotiate terms of settlement subject to approval of the court before which proceedings are prosecuted. Also, authorize the Director of Finance to initiate any funding mechanisms required for the acquisition of said public access easements. This resolution was introduced by Mr. Yagam.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pilato?
Motion to approve Resolution 308-12, Draft 2.
Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ford. Just as a reminder, this is the second of 2 required readings pursuant to Section 101-13 Hawaii Revised Statute. Okay, so Resolution 308-12, Draft 2 is on the floor. Discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Ford.
I'd like to call our Corporation Counsel forward from the Hilo side.
Okay, I believe Kathy Carson or Lincoln Ashita is available, or Bill Murlock is also available in Hilo. There's someone from Corporation Counsel. Okay,
Yes,
go ahead.
Ms.
Please
Carson.
introduce
Hi.
yourself to the record.
Assistant Corporation Counsel Kathy Garza, I'm the one that drew the short straw today.
Thank you. Ms. Garson, we had some testimony this morning from Ms. Ruggles regarding historic trails and ADA requirements, and it was stated that if you have a historic trail, you probably don't need to have comply with current ADA requirements. Is that correct?
There is an exception. Correct.
Thank you. And if the trail, if there's impracticability in improving the trail for ADA functionality, then we do not have to do it. Is that correct?
There is an exception regarding practicability and feasibility.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Ms. Ruggles for her research and bringing that forward. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything further here in Kona before we go to Hilo? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Smart.
Thank you. In terms of the state law, I think I explained myself pretty clearly last time. To reiterate, I think it's fairly clear exactly what the state law says. The counties shall purchase access, and their tool to do so is eminent domain. And in fact, the state law puts the responsibility straight onto the county. The one thing I want to make clear to the public, because while we're talking a lot about this eminent domain, I want to make sure that people understand that should this resolution pass, that does not automatically mean that tomorrow the access is now the county's. This is an authorizing resolution to go through the eminent domain process. There's still further steps, still has to go through the court system. And I just want to make sure that that's implicitly clear with the public that this does not mean that it is now a county access as of tomorrow. Other than that, I still have my continued support on it based strictly on the state law aspects. I know there's a lot of emotional issues regarding this, but it's purely an access discussion from my viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to Hilo. Anyone out of Hilo? Any discussion out of Hilo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Thank you. Is Mr. Fitzgerald or anyone from Parks present in Kona?
Not here in Kona, sir.
Oh, okay. No one else from Parks? Public Works?
Not here.
No one? Okay. We're looking at the moment, I guess, to see. Yeah, I guess not. Okay. Well, let me call up Mrs. Pritchett then, I guess.
Okay. Prickett, yeah, is,
It's Prickett.
Prickett,
Prickett.
I'm sorry.
It's really Prickett.
that's
It's always
okay.
going both ways. Prickett.
I guess I don't. I need to turn that on.
Okay.
There are two Na'alahele letters which you have had in previous testimonies, refuting the claim of an historic trail. Na'alahele being DLNR's eminently competent research group.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you questions about what, if anything, has transpired since the last council meeting as far as your efforts to work with the community. I know, this has been a progression, and my impression is, it's getting better.
Oh, yes.
And so, maybe just update us as to what's been going on, if anything, as far as your meeting with the community and any progress.
Well, yes, it is better. We had the assistance, the voluntary and donated assistance of an attorney, actually, Councilman Yoshimoto, who is a surfer and whose son surfed at Palmaco Mill Beach for many years, and he I guess thought he could bring some of his skill set to the situation, and he came to the beach a couple of weeks ago to ask about installing a lifesaver tube, and ask if he could donate his time and expertise in bringing some stakeholders to the table, and I said absolutely. And so we did talk at length with one of the main community leaders, Brada Skibbs, the surfer group, which has stepped forward to open and close the property in the extended hours of summer.
Okay, so
And
go ahead.
well, and I have talked to a lot of people one-on-one. I have had a couple of conversations with Kalani Lyman and with people on Mill Road, particularly the people toward the bottom of Mill Road, who are very concerned, but also really willing to step up and participate in a community managed working group. That was the word that we came out of our meeting with, a working group that could problem solve the nuances of how the access would operate.
Okay, so the memorandum of agreement which you provided to us is, I guess, the end product of your efforts to meet with, looks like the Mill surfer team and Brother Skibbs you're talking about, right?
Yes, and a couple of community leaders who are not entirely comfortable being named right now.
Okay.
And I respect that.
So refresh our memory. So the proposed hours of access would be from what time? From like 5 in the morning?
Well,
to 8?
and here's our feeling about this. With really good management, anything's possible. But when talking with the surfers, I said, you guys decide, when do you want to surf? And they said, well, 5:30 to dark, and dark kind of changes over the course of the summer. So we decided to follow the Tribune Herald sunset. So around about 5:30, and they thought, that by 8, most of the summer, by 8 it's dark, and they would like to be locking up at 8. But I'm not, that's not set in concrete. As long as they can make sure that there's no one left on the property and lock up, dark is fine with me.
Okay.
And whether it's 8 or 8:15 or
Okay.
7:45, I think it's only fair to the public, though, to let them know on the gate what time
Okay, yeah,
it
that's
is for that month.
something to count on, right? Because one of the concerns, I'm sorry to interrupt you, one of the concerns from the people in talking to members in the audience several times is that, clearly they've had problems having access, and they've said that it seemed a little arbitrary, or well, let me finish, okay? And so they want some assurances that it's not going to happen again. Because one of the arguments is that if we have this resolution passed, then Corporation Council is entitled to go forward. You can still negotiate anything in the meantime, but then there's like this, I guess, extra motivation to move forward because if the resolution passes, right? So how would you comfort or reassure the residents who have had problems with access that it's not just going to be changed at your discretion? Yeah.
Well, we signed this agreement. I realize it's a good faith agreement. The surfer lawyer who helped us said it's not something that anybody can be sued over. We don't have, it has been said that we're trying to privatize the beach, that we see the beach as our own. That's just not true. And I don't have any problem with people gathering and throwing net, all the things that they do in the water at night. What we have a problem with is leaving our property unsecured all night long, not because of the fishermen, but because of others who might come in.
You explained that, right? As far as people.
So here's an idea that I found from a Ka'u rancher. This rancher has found this very successful in opening her gates to the mountain, to hunting lands. There's a message service, a phone message service on the mainland, goes 24/7. And they're quite good at sculpting your account just how you want it. And so what she does she's closed all the time, and you have to be a sort of a member. You have to have applied to have access to those gates. Well, we could do something like that for after hours. So if we knew who was going in, somebody applies, and you give them a PIN number and a phone number to that phone messaging service, so you know who they are. And on certain days or within certain hours, however you want to set it up with the fishermen, and I got to tell you, I'm not a fisherman, they can call this phone number and they get the daily combination to the lock, and they can go in, and they attest, in their application that they read the rules, and the rules can be set by us and the community, and they. With her situation, they say who they are and kind of about what time they'll be going in, about what time they'll be coming out, and they, agree to lock the gate behind them when they come in, and again when they go out. And so nobody is calling us at odd hours, and it seems to work pretty darn well for this rancher.
And one of your main concerns is that illegal activity or criminal activity,
Absolutely.
right? I mean,
And vandalism.
and that's why you want some kind
vandalism,
of vandalism, accountability as far as, okay.
Absolutely.
And I think the public recognizes that. It's just the balancing the public access, which is, open to everyone versus, having some rules in place. Okay, let me stop you there. We can, Mr. Chairman, is Ms. Leadhead Todd in the, I'm gonna,
Not here. I believe she is the Hilo.
she's here, I see her right there. Okay. If I may call Ms. Leadhead Todd to the table. Oh. Okay, Mr. Lee has arrived in the council room.
Before you go with Ms. Lee and Todd, Ms. Yoshimoto, um, I just want to let you know that we do have two more people here. Is there anyone in Hilo that want to speak after you before I come back to Kona? I just wanted to double check on that.
Yes, I believe both Mr. Ikeda and Mr. Onishi want to speak after.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Ikeda next and we'll come back here to Kona. Well, go ahead, please proceed, Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, Ms. Lee, if you can introduce yourself for the record.
Bobby Jean Lee, Todd, Planning Director for County of Hawaii.
Thank you for joining us. If you know, can you describe for us other similar type beach parks or something similar to Papaikou Mill on the island, and what kind of rules or restrictions are in place?
What we routinely do as, under a purview, we have some authority under subdivision or rezonings, SMA permits to basically make a condition of approval a public access plan. And typically what we do is they are easements as opposed to fee simple. They are typically open sunrise to sunset, or 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. if you have specific hours. And then there are alternative numbers you can call if you want to access it for night fishing. And then we typically arrange with the homeowners in those situations for them to try and be responsible for maintenance of the trail. And part of that is because in this county we have not determined yet if we have these public access trails that are not necessarily part of a public park or part of a road as to who would be responsible. And obviously planning department does not have weed whackers and other equipment, so we don't have the capability or the staff island-wide to maintain. So typically what we try to do is make the property owners responsible, because they're the ones most likely to see whether a trail is eroding or not. Or we try to get a community organization that will enter into some type of an agreement with the homeowners to do maintenance of the trail. But I am not aware of any of these access easements that we have created that are open 24/7. And part of the problem was the concerns of the property owners over theft, vandalism at night, and the fact that we did have problems with unrestricted access where we had rave parties occurring next to archaeological sites, and there was damage to some of the sites. So we try to be very limited in terms of vehicular access. Most of the trails that we do are pedestrian. And in the case of this particular access, if the county takes it over, I think one of the issues here is that the provisions under the Hawaii Revised Statutes regarding liability are very different for a private landowner that opens their property up to the public versus a county-owned easement. And the particular concern on this one is because it is not a natural trail. It is something that has been basically built, and the steepness of it, I would be concerned primarily about signage issues, because under state law, and if you can recall, I think it was Sacred Falls with the boulders falling down, the big issue for the county is having adequate signage. My issues here are having that once we acquire the easement, we need signage. Signage that says no lifeguard, signage that says steep, slippery, proceed at own risk. Because there is an old mill site with pieces of it that are falling down, we need signage warning not to go on that site. We need signage, don't go into the river because there's pieces of rusting metal in the river. We have greater liability, so there are a whole set of things that would need to be done. Also, I think we need to put some guardrails in if we're gonna acquire this. Because of some of those switchbacks, there's a steep drop off right at those points. So, you know, it's up to the council if you wanna do this. I'm just saying that if we're gonna do this, we need to do it in a way that we are looking at what we need to do to protect both the public as well as the county from liability.
Right, okay, good. I just wanted to see, you know, what the practical effect of passing this would be, because in addition to finding the money to purchase it, I guess we need to get an appraisal and all that. You know, assuming the county, is successful in the eminent domain, then, you know, what types of rules or restrictions would be in place. And it sounds like, you know, what's happening now is very similar to what would be in place. And I can't predict the future, but does that sound?
It's very similar, and we also have periods in which trails and some access is closed if there's renovation, repair work, if construction in the area poses a hazard to the public. We've also had situations where we have to move the trail because of erosion. And so in that case, you have to probably redo the easement. You've got to negotiate that unless you had language. Like in some cases, we have like a 40-foot wide area. And then within that area, we can do a 10-foot trail. So we can move anywhere in that 40 feet. And so that gives us some flexibility. So we've done different types of agreements depending on the specific topography of the area. So, you know, there's some flexibility.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I know I've taken up some time. I would also like to address the council and speak again, but I'll yield at this time.
Okay, very good. Mr. Katie, on the floor.
Yes, thank you. Bobby, I'm glad you're here. I would like to ask you a question now. This guy's been painting section 115-5, his transit corridor. When I read each transit corridor, all it states is that we will provide an easement. It doesn't say which easement, so isn't it? And it's up to the county how we're gonna get down to the beach in the easement. Because according to 115, we will provide an access to the beach. It doesn't have to be the trail that it's on right now, is what I'm trying to say. Or does it have to be on there?
No, the language of the state law does not say that you have to do a particular easement or a particular access. And in fact, the county has changed and moved our own public, beach park accesses and changed where we put trails and stuff as time goes by. But, in the easements that I've secured or the department has secured, we've had to move the trail in some places because, it's become too hazardous in the location that it is.
Well, that was my concern too, because, right now I see the pictures in the walls, trying their best. And I think we're kind of premature right now to push what we're trying to push, because we're already getting so-called easements, and, by reading the section 115, I don't think they're quite correct when they quoted that we have to provide that easement. And I don't believe that's true. The county has to provide an easement, and that's how I read it.
It's also a question of when, state law doesn't mandate that you purchase the easements. It's that when we're doing stuff, and typically for us, it's when we're doing subdivisions, and it's next to the ocean. Under our own rules, it has to be a certain number of lots, and then we require access. And the access is to a state property, either at the shore or to the mountain. I think also if we're going to go down the shore, we're probably going to have to get a certified shoreline survey done, because when I went down there's really an issue of what part is the river, which is the land under the river is owned by two different property owners, versus where the shoreline is, because the two interact in that area. But my biggest concern, and I really want to reiterate this, that if you're going to go and purchase an easement, at the same time that you're going down that road, you have to address appropriate signage. And the signage has to be sufficiently simple enough to warn people of what the dangers are. And possibly because of the old mill site, you may need to look at some fencing to keep people away. Because my concern is, I'm not sure whether it would be the property owner's liability or our liability. Because if you invite people to come down and part of that mill site collapses, just like boulders at Sacred Falls, then there's a question of liability unless you have adequate signage. And that's basically what the county needs to do.
I've thought about that too. I don't understand how the county could limit its user group to the easement. That people move around our entire bottom land. And it's not simple to fence it because it's a raging flooding gulch. I don't know if you councilmen will remember the site visit, but when that river really floods, it floods halfway up the Kamani trees. There are a row of Kamani trees. And so, from it, if you remember the mown area at the bottom where, and then the point where we stop mowing, it floods a good 30 feet of that. And the flume abutments in the river are completely underwater. So any fence that's put up gets taken out by the flood. Otherwise, we would think about, fencing, coming the other way, the alternate route that we would have proposed. We thought about, well, we just drop the public right down onto the old mill site and then onto the beach. But we would not ever be able to keep them out of our entire bottom land coming back up the river. We don't see how it's possible because of the floods. So that we decided that the best way to handle that is to sell the entire bottom land to the county along with the proposed alternate route and use the public and open spaces fund.
You know, the rest. Mr. Lee, will you please come up, please?
Kiera, are you calling someone to the table?
Yes, I'm calling Warren Lee.
Okay.
Is there someone from Parks? I heard all of the department heads went down to look at the property. I wanted to hear you guys' assessment of what you guys think about the property, what the visibility of, creating all the things that the people want. Like the trails and so forth, or the easements. Did you go down to the Richard Wallace property? What do you think of it?
Warren, the Director of Public Works. I did visit the site a couple of days ago, and from the Public Works side, the engineering assessment is that it starts off at the top. It's grass, pretty steep, 16 to 20% in grade. Then it's a switchback. Part of it is there's CRM, concrete rock masonry walkway. Most of it is grass on I would say an adobe soil. Part of the CRM walkway at the some of the switchbacks were fading, which means that the slope is not stable under the rock, and you kind of meander down to the river, to the ocean. And where most of that is at the bottom is a combination black sand, lava, grit, and with I would call that scrub grass. The entire trail is not does not have any restraints from going over the edge, so to speak. So if this was say a county property, there are some issues relative to safety.
Anyways, I myself went down the trail and I found it for myself, and I think, I used to do a lot of hunting and so forth. I think I'm pretty good in these kind of things, but I find it kind of strenuous walking down, walking back up. I didn't think, like I said, I found it easier to walk in the forest than I did walking down the trail. You know, and so it's not that, I really believe that we need to provide public access to the police. There's no doubt about it. I support it 100%. But I don't think we're doing it the right way. That's what bothers me the most. I believe that Pritchard and Waugh is trying to work with the community, and what my biggest concern is, I've always stated that the worst enemy is the outsiders. I really believe the people if you look at the people against the purchase, it's all the people that live on Mill Road. They're the ones that's against the project. It's not so much that they're against the surfers. What they're against is the people that come to surf here from outside of Papaiko, outside of Mill Road, who parks, all kind of ways, parks in someone else's property, who uses their water and so forth. And this is where I was trying to get you guys to work with the Pritchard and the Waugh and give them more time so that they can come with alternative routes or easements. And like across the river, I believe there's a property, Fujiyama's property is for sale. It's possibility we could make an easement, make a bridge over the river and come back over, which might be safer. But in the meantime, you still can use the Pritchard property if you live on, I'm sure you guys could make a deal where if you live on the Mill Road, you could go down and use it, but all outsiders, because there's no parking, park somewhere else and go down the other way and use the other route. I'm sure there's a lot of alternatives. I think right now, you guys kind of boxing the Pritchard and Waugh into a corner, and if I was them, I would fight that. Bob, you want to add something?
Well, I was gonna say that a lot of the easements that we negotiate, and it's usually because I've got a hammer, right? You want your subdivision, you need to negotiate with us in order for us to approve it. We typically try to find a place that we can agree on for public parking. We try to place it away from people's homes. We try to place it in a area where the trail is relatively close and accessible. And we negotiate these things when we're doing it. One of the concerns I had about this is that as I read the resolution, I didn't see provision for parking. And that's not just a concern for the neighbors and for people who want to access the beach. You want to access this and you don't live there and there's no place for you to park, I don't know how you access it. It's a pretty far walk. But you have a problem that if you are going to have the county maintain the trail, we need to have a way, a legal way, for us to take our equipment and be able to park vehicles. Because we're not going to park by Pinky's and then ride the riding lawnmower down Mill Road, because there's more than just that equipment. You need to be able to get in there. And so there has to be some kind of provision for, at least for the county, for vehicular access. The turning radius at the end of this road didn't look adequate. I'm just looking at, if you expand the use of an area, you need to be looking at emergency access too.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Ms. Vega, thank you. You want to conclude with a statement, Donald, because I'm going to come back here to Kona and then we can come back there as well.
Okay, what it is I'd like to speak later again.
Okay, very good. Let's come back here to Kona. We'll go to Mr. Pilago, then Mr. Hoffman, then we'll go to Mr. Onishi. Go ahead, Mr. Pilago.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Thank you all for the discussion. With your permission, Mr. Chair, if we can please call Ms. Charlene Prickett up to the microphone again. Thank you, Charlene. Especially thank you and congratulations for your MOA, your Memorandum of Agreement. I do wish it would have gone submitted and been given to this council as a communication and had been numbered. But I
Sure,
accept
I
it
appreciate
as
that.
it is.
I just wanted,
So-
I felt the need, Councilman Palago, to honor, to respect, the concern of one of the signatories.
I'm going to be doing that. Thank you very much. As you brought up the signatories, my understanding is you have, I don't know the name, I can't make it out, a gatekeeper mill surfer team.
Jesse
The name, please?
Jesse Bronco.
Thank you very much. A caretaker has been scratched out, so I guess that's not included. Management partner, Basic Image, Mr. Keith Mills, is that correct?
Skips.
Skip, are
Skips.
they there with you?
No,
No?
He's not here
You'll be
today.
speaking on their behalf. Thank you.
I'm not gonna
Well,
speak on
we'll
his
come
behalf,
back.
he signed it yesterday,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, congratulations on your effort here. You have attachments and supporting documents. I'm going to go to page 6. 2 photographs, attachment and supporting documents. You have something that references the TMK 2-7027010, and something about this person is not shown as owner on the deed. How is that supporting your MOU?
oh, no, it's not,
or
it's
MOA?
totally unrelated, it's totally
Well, why
unrelated.
is it put in?
I presumed that would come up today, and it hasn't yet. The landowner of that property, which is adjacent to us, well, actually, it's not the landowner. The person who has complained about our preventing parking in that area turns out not to be on the deed. I only learned about this.
And is that, please, you gotta help me, please, I'm very simple-minded, and so you gotta keep it very simple for me. So, because a person is not on a deed and they may have testified against you, you're adding it in as part of your
No.
support document?
No, I thought.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to
We
move
put
on to your
boulders
other,
on, sorry. Shall I explain?
briefly, please. I'm getting really confused.
The parking got so bad, a few years ago that we put boulders at the end of the road and alongside that lot on what we own, the shoulder, to prevent parking.
Thank
And
you.
I gather it has upset a family member who is not on the deed. And I presumed that would come up today because that family member.
Because I'm following, you gotta allow me some time too, thank you. And because they were not on a deed, and you may have put some rocks on somebody else's property, they shouldn't have said anything to you?
No, I wish they would come to us rather than go to Councilman Yagong. I learned about this third hand.
That would have been nice, I sympathize with you. Let me go on to your other
Sure.
attachment, that is page 7. You have a photo here, and it says, a banner is put up at somebody's house, and it appears to be prejudicial. So, and I'm upset with it, because
Okay.
it shows, it may be prejudice, certainly some ethnic, racial profiling. You're telling me if we agree to your memorandum of understanding, you would alleviate ethnic prejudice or racial profiling? Is that why this is in here?
It has nothing to do with the MOA, and only.
Yes, it does. It's all stapled together.
Well, only so that it wouldn't get lost. I think that was sent over to you through council services. So I didn't staple it together. You know, and
Thank you.
if I
I
could,
know,
Rick.
I know it's upsetting to you as it is to me, so I'm agreeing with you. It has no need and no basis for being in here. What's important to me is that this memorandum of agreement between you, Basic Image Gibbs, Mill Surfer Team, it wasn't vetted. It didn't go through. It wasn't a proposal that's given to planning even. So I don't know. This not even recorded in a Bureau of Conveyances, so I don't know what the power is of this. Let me reference that and tell you why I'm questioning its power. If we look at page 3, the very last sentence, it says, you have 9 rules. Then it says, on the very last 2 sentences, persons who violate these rules of use will be provided a written notice, and if they continue to ignore or violate any rules, they will be prohibited from using access. Is this where you and Skid Niels and Mills Surfer Team come into play? You folks are going to enforce?
No, we put the rules.
Who enforces?
We put the rules in the MOA with the agreement that we would review the rules with the community working group, change the language of some, revise and refine some, and further explain to the community why some of the rules exist. Sometimes people don't understand why a rule exists, and they may think it's
Please apologize. I keep interrupting and I keep apologizing. I don't understand the rules, but thank you for being sympathetic to my position. Another thing I do not understand. Last time, 2 times I mentioned, if you do an MOA, or in this case an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, it must be recorded at Bureau of Conveyances. One. Number two, the covenant must be attached to the land and not the landowner. Because after you sign it to someone else, the agreement dies. And if this is going to last for the good of community in perpetuity, it must be tied into the land. Why was that not considered?
well, this is a starting place. I think this says here that it's an interim agreement. The purpose of this agreement is also to establish an interim agreement for the use of access, which will be further refined with input from the community working group as defined below. This is just a starting promise. It's just a good faith pledge that we will come to the table and give it our best effort.
Thank you. Again, congratulations on the effort. Unfortunately, they do not meet my expectations.
I respect
As I
that.
said, the covenant needs to be locked into the land and not the landowners to protect the public trust in perpetuity. The second thing, it must be recorded in a Bureau of Conveyances so the partners are held to the covenant. Number 3, it must be brought in that it must be vetted by the different departments and this council. With that, I will be voting to initiate condemnation. Thank you.
Instead of Mr. Hoffman, I'm sorry, it was Ms. Smart, and then I'll go to Hilo with Ms. Konishi. Go ahead, Ms. Smart.
Thank you, Mr. Polanco. I hope to clear up some of your confusion regarding the letter in regards to the Taros, or however you pronounce it. Just to clarify, we heard this testimony when we were out at Popeye Co. in regards to the boulders on the neighboring property, and I was also presented with a letter. So despite what Ms. Prickett says, it sounds like there were numerous instances where there was requests to take the boulders off the property. Very briefly in one of the email, it says, my family has had a history of consistently refusing Mrs. Prickett's repeated requests to place boulders on our property to prevent the public from parking vehicles on it. My father has refused her requests many times before he passed away in 2006. My mother was also subjected to relentless badgering by Mrs. Prickett in person and by phone. It got to the point where she treated Ms. Prickett like a harassing phone sales solicitor and refused to pick up the phone when the caller ID displayed Ms. Prickett's phone number. Ms. Prickett did not give my mother nor any member of my family verbal or written notice that they were going to place boulders on the property sometime in 2006. No permission was ever granted by me or a member of my family for boulders to be placed there. I gotta say, when I listened to this lady's testimony at the public hearing, I was very distressed about what she was claiming, and so we followed up on it and contacted her And in the course of those discussions, we advised her to contact Mr. Yagong since meeting with the landowner obviously wasn't going anywhere and their wishes were not respected. Since that, I noticed in our packet that there was a letter sent to the Taros about complaining about vegetation removal. Just to go to a quick point, and then I'll dispose and go back to the main issue. Whether or not someone is on the deed does not give them any hindrance of speaking out in response to their family's interests. I may not be on the deed of my parents' property, but you best be sure if there was some injustice there, I would be working on their behalf to make sure that they were being respected. I'm really disappointed on how this has gone. As I originally stated, I was very concerned about the eminent domain process, and I originally had no intent to support it. On my own personal research, I found very clearly that it is the county's purview and responsibility to provide these accesses. Point in fact is it never should have been sold to begin with, and we're now having to rectify a situation that wasn't handled properly the first time. I find it encouraging that bringing forward this eminent domain has resulted in a flurry of sudden activity despite a stagnant discussion for the last 15 years, and most specifically, a very active 2 years. While I'm glad this agreement is going forward with the surfers and whatnot, I still reiterate the point that that is no reason to stop this process from moving forward today. Mr. Ikeda is right. Miss Bobby Jean Lee Head Todd is correct. The state law does not say we have to buy a specific trail. However, I hold to the point, if this trail is not appropriate, why was it put there to begin with? If we go with the members of the public, that trail has been there for many, many years. If we go on the Prickett side, they built this trail. Well, I have no doubt that there has been some improvement. The point in fact is the trail is there. If the Pricketts did not intend for the trail to be there, I would have wondered why it wasn't done in another area. I would hope that they would, I'm sorry, Ms. Prickett, you have really been speaking over a lot of council members, and we only have a little bit of time, and this is my last time to speak. And now I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I was on to a point. You know what, Mr. Chair, I would like you to come back to me, even though this is my second time, as I was just interrupted in my train of thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. We'll come back to you when you remember what you were heading towards. Let's go to Mr. Onishi. Ms. Onishi, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, can I get back up on Mr. Kid Todd, Mr. Lee, and also we forgot Parks and Rec. I think James Comata is representing Parks and Rec. So maybe go on the slide.
Okay, go ahead. Please proceed, Mr.
Well, they're
Onishi.
coming up. They're coming up. I guess, James, if you can introduce yourself. Red is on. Okay. James Comata, planner for Parks and Recreation. Okay, thank you for coming back up. Yeah, I've heard, like as what Mr. Ikeda heard, that you folks went to go a site visit down there. Okay, so we've kind of heard what planning have said about their assessment. We heard what public works. So Parks, can you folks can I get your assessment?
Sure. I personally did not go. I'm here. Our director did go to the site visit earlier this week, and in speaking with him, he does have concerns about the site being considered as a park.
Okay, so where is the director?
He had to attend another meeting in Waimea, so he was available all day. It just took too long. He had to leave.
And what time will he be finished with the meeting?
His meeting's at 3:15 in Waimea.
It's at 3:15
in Waimea. Yeah.
Okay, and he finishes at
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I would really want to hear his opinion, right? Because he went there. I mean, because I think if anything, you folks could be responsible for this area.
Well, should it become a park, yes. And the director did express to me his concerns about it. He did express concerns over the condition of the trail and some of the safety issues, the drop-offs and things on the edges there.
Can you give more detail then of the concerns?
Right, so the trail itself, the edge conditions on the trail, I believe I heard someone earlier speaking about, you know, the need for guardrails and safety improvements along the trail down to the beach. Also, as we were discussing it, you know, he didn't seem to feel that there were any advantages for the site becoming a park as opposed to having shoreline access the way it's currently being handled. Maybe there's some tweaks that gotta go on under the current system, but as far as the park goes, you know, typically with our parks, we have a lot of additional amenities that are provided, and it looks like the easement doesn't allow for those kinds of things, such as, you know, any of our parks, parking. You know, there's always a demand for restrooms, comfort station, there's picnic table issues, picnic tables and other maintenance issues, maintenance access that we would be concerned about for our staff and their vehicles and their equipment. We also have concerns over accessibility issues, ADA requirements. I believe some of that was discussed earlier. But those are in general what his concerns were that he asked me to convey at this meeting.
Thank you. You know, Ms. Likiato, if this should happen, you talked about, I guess, the easement for people for a walkway. Now, let's move back to who owns that road from the bottom to the top?
The Prickett's, Ms. Prickett and Mr. Wall own the road. The houses along the road have an easement for access to their homes along it. In some ways, I don't think the resolution goes far enough in terms of what you are looking at acquiring. It makes no sense to me to have an easement if you're not providing some parking for people. And as to the property adjacent to the Prickett's, if you recall from when we had the property up on Punahele Street that people were using as a parking lot, we cited them because it's a violation. Parking is an accessory use to a primary use. If there's no primary use, it's a violation.
Before you move on, okay, so that's where the boulders are put on.
The boulders are on, as far as
whose
I could
property?
tell, on her property, on her road right of way, and not on the property
landowners.
owned. But what I'm saying is that if the county wants to create this easement, then I think you need not just pedestrian, but vehicular, and you need to acquire in fee simple some type of parking for people, because otherwise what you're going to create is a situation in which multiple lot owners are going to have problems with people parking on their property. And it's a fairly narrow road. If you have cars parked on the sides, then you're going to have problems with emergency access if there's some kind of emergency. So I just think that if you're going to do this, you need to do more than just create that easement. You need to provide some parking, legal parking for the public. And that may not be what the people along Mill Road want, that may not be what the Prickett's want, but if you're going to provide, if you're serious of providing access for the public, then you need to be serious of providing them parking too.
And also, you know, with this resolution, it doesn't really say where the funding is going to be coming from, correct?
No, it does not. And you're going to have, somebody's going to have to find funding.
Right.
And we're going to have some kind of idea of what it would cost.
Right. And so, like, you know, like when we put up, like, we had just discussion yesterday about like CIP projects, and then it's like where the source of funding is going to be coming from. So you mentioned kind of like in that, like, that bill that we do that, you know, where the funding sources possibility could come from. But with this resolution, there isn't anything, right? It's up to the administration, basically.
It makes it difficult to proceed with an eminent domain action without a funding source, because then you have to demonstrate good faith when you enter into one of these legal actions. So you have to be able to show that you have money to purchase in order to proceed. So that's a separate issue. I'm just looking at it from a planning perspective, and I think that you need to look at whether you're gonna provide,
What is that being provided to
well, they're talking about different funding sources, but the point is that you need to have the funding either in the budget, either the operating budget or in the CIP budget. Because it's not necessarily, you have to identify a funding source before you can go to court. I think you need to also, the resolution should be more flexible. Because I think if I recall correctly, you had it with specific means and bounds that were listed. That may not be the specific means and bounds that you may want in terms of acquiring an easement. When you have your county guys go, you may decide that you may want to move that easement a little bit for better alignment,
Right,
so you
okay.
want some more flexibility.
Okay. So, it was also stated, I guess you stated something about working with the state. That you need to have this contact with the state. It's not to get their approval, but to let them know what's going on or to acquire certain areas.
We don't have to acquire areas, but because everything up to the high water mark is state land, at a minimum, you need to have a conversation about DLNR. And in terms of, what's the county responsibility, what's state responsibility in the area. I don't think that it impacts the easement per se. I'm just saying that when you're gonna do that, you need to have some conversation with the state over whose jurisdiction is where.
And this could be done after this.
That can be done after.
Mr. Lee, do you have any other comments?
No, I don't.
Mr. Kumato? No. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, for now.
Okay, thank you. Let's move back here to Kona, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, not to feel as though I'm being too short and abrupt, either with the applicants or with the people who have come here as testifiers. I think I've stated very clearly my concerns as well as my support for this particular issue. Let's move this forward. I still have doubts regarding eminent domain, but we wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for the eminent domain resolution that's been brought forward. I'm sorry to say that there's been plenty of time to make alternate trails, to decide this with community efforts. The weight of testimony clearly indicates this could have been done on any number of occasions in the past. But more important, folks, even if this passes today, that does not mean that the county's racing out tomorrow to purchase the property. They're not. It still allows plenty of time for Charlene and Jim to come to some arrangement and the community to come to some arrangement before any initiation of the actual eminent domain process and purchase is made. And I would urge that that continue, that the dialogue between the community and the homeowner continues, but we need to pass this and move forward. Thank you. By the way, Mr. Chairman, I just want to remind everyone I would like to make my Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow.
Mr. Chairman, you have the floor?
One second. Is there anyone else? We've gone one round on this here. If folks want to go for a second round, certainly we'll have that opportunity to do so. Hearing code, anybody? Okay. Okay, Brittany, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Ms. Smart.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
that's all right. Just 2 points I wanted to make. There was talk about access, 24 access or not. A number of the beach parks limit vehicular access between certain hours. However, beach access is available 24 hours. We used to live down Onikaha. While the gates would close to the parking lot, people could still come in and out and fish. My comment that I was going to make before was going to be tied to open space, and I was going to actually invite Mr. Yuen to come forward. Chris, if you could please come forward. I do happen to recall that there was some effort a number of years ago, I would say about 2 years ago, to get part of this parcel onto the open space list, and my recollection of that conversation is there was no willing seller. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
And that was the reason that it was not prioritized on the list, is there was no willing seller according to the commission?
At the time, the commission was taking the viewpoint that it would not prioritize property that did not have a willing seller.
Okay, that was basically to reiterate my point that there has been opportunities for these. I'm glad that the owners are willing to go towards the open space this round, and I hope that they will express their support of having this parcel be prioritized, and the community will come out in support of that as well. Please, community members, you also have a responsibility to make sure that your behavior is evidence that you're responsible, as it is with any public space. Pick up your trash, don't graffiti, and just general respect for the area, and that's incumbent upon you. And whatever organization, whether it be a Friends of a Park organization or whether it's just a community group that's organizing, has to some extent self-police, because the few do ruin it for the many in many, many circumstances. And that's part of the reason that we're here today, is the few do ruin it for the many, and unfortunately, this is the point we're at. So I hope we have continued support for the open space moving forward, now that it's on record that the owners are interested in doing so. But again, I still don't see any reason to not pass this today. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in here who would like to speak? This is the last round.
Yes, is Mr.
Okay,
Ono-
go ahead, Mr. Ikeda, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Is Mr. Ono here? Or you Mr. Okay. I want to call Mr. Ono up because he's one of the residents that live on the Mill Road, and he had concerns. I guess he's the one that distributed all the maps, so I'd like to hear Mr. Ono's comment, because he's one of the few residents that live there that have wasn't afraid to come up and speak. Mr. Ono, you want to give your comments?
Oh, my views, as far as people being bad like that, I'll tell you like a personal story on this issue. There's a house that's really close to where I live, on Mill Road, and for about 2 or 3 years, there's no one living there on that property. So the surfers or beach users would come over there, and they just noticed that this house is old and there's nobody living there. So they just came and just started parking over there. Sometimes like 4 or 5 cars, sometimes more. And then when that started to happen, I told myself, you watch, the house is gonna burn down. And to my surprise, after 2, 3 years, the house is still there. The kids respected it. All except for maybe, a little bit of graffiti. So the kids are just, well, not the kids, but the beach people are just looking for parking, and they just want to do their thing. And then also, I noticed, some of the beach users, it's not like I'm spying, but I can see across the road diagonally. I've seen people go to that neighbor's house and use a water spigot. And that happened to me last week, Wednesday, for the first time. Someone came onto my property, and yeah, at first I was, kind of taken aback. But the more I thought about this and what happened to that empty house, the kids just want to go down to the beach and surf and have fun. They have no intentions of, well, the house is still standing, like I said. So my feeling is, yeah, the county should get together and help everybody who wants to use the beach, yeah. And in that way provide parking and maybe a little water like that. And like I mentioned, if I were to go down to the beach, I would want to have water access to rinse myself like that. It's only natural, so yeah. Let's do it, yeah.
Well, this is what I was getting at here, because right now, because there's no adequate
Yeah.
parking, it kind of puts the people that live on the
Yeah,
street
like
at a disadvantage, right? And then you're right, no water access. So again,
Yeah.
they're using the people's water
Yeah.
without permission. And this is what I'm saying, that this
bill or resolution is kind of premature. We should look into another area which we can have adequate parking,
Yeah,
water
yeah.
and different things that, this is why I'm saying we rush it because, Pritchard and Walls are willing to open their property in the meantime to give us chance to look into other areas or make other
Yeah,
solutions.
yeah.
And I think,
And like, I think they have offered to make the parking lot at their expense, and even the
right.
trail, and then to give it to the county,
that's right.
or
So,
like have some kind of exchange, but, that's why.
well, this is why I'm saying, I think this resolution is kind of premature. Instead of rushing and trying to condemn the property and take it over right away. And, the department heads is not in favor of it also, so, we know by law, you guys don't have to tell me, we know by law we have to give access. There's no doubt about it. We understand it. But we're trying to make it a win-win solution. Right now, it's not the win-win solution. The Pritchard and Walk will lose, and the people in you guys is going to lose because going to have inconvenience, and also the surface going to lose because they won't have adequate parking.
Right, yeah, and like even the county will lose because, where you're buying like a substandard product. Also, if you buy now, at some future date, the parking issue is gonna come up. And at that point, you are gonna have to find parking, so you might be spending money 2 times. So instead of doing that, if you're gonna buy it one time and get it right the first time, instead of wasting taxpayers' money. Plan it correctly, but do it quickly. People are impatient, yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying, but this is what I'm saying, that we need time, and like I said, I'm not saying that we should kill this resolution. We still can keep it alive. We can postpone it, and they can always bring it back as a hammer if nothing happens. They always have the hammer. But in the meantime, what really bothers me is, and I'm going to tell you this, I'm from Hilo, and I see the people on you guys do not support this resolution because of the parking and so
No.
forth.
To me, okay, just me personally, it's not that. It's not that I'm saying don't support this. I'm saying that there should be beach access, like how I testified. Everybody, it seems to me, agree that everyone should have access, yeah. Like I'm not opposing that. I'm just saying, let's move beyond that and get into
Well, I misstated.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees we need access.
Yeah.
The thing is, maybe this might not be the right one, is what we're saying, that there might be another location that might be better. That's all I'm saying. We need some time. And I don't want to see this resolution die because then Charlene and her husband Jim, they're on the line. They have to do something about it. And I know they're going to work because they know this is in the back of the people's mind. They have to work with the community. And I tell you what really bothers me was that, the people that were actually not supportive of this was because they were the people that live on Mill Road and not from somewhere else. And although they had 5,000 signatures, I don't think Papa Pro get 5,000 people living there. I think you only get about 1,200 if you're lucky. So this is what I'm saying, that it seems to be outside influence, a lot of outside influence. I think a lot of these things here could be solved with the people right in Popeye Cove.
But like to me, I think this beach should be open to everyone, not just the people in Popeye Cove. It should be open to everyone.
It's true, but the thing is, where are they going to park right now unless you get on parking?
Yeah, that's my whole point.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
If I may.
Okay, Mr. Ikeda?
Yes.
Mr. Ikeda, you have anything further?
No, that's about it, because like I said, I have concerns. I think it's kind of premature. I don't believe, I believe that the resolution should stay alive. I think it should be postponed, and I think there's a lot of merits to it. This way it forces Charlene and Jim to put their feet on the fire, and they have to come up with a solution. And but I just don't think that this is a correct, interim domain is a correct method right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just realized I'm the only guy that haven't spoken. We're going to second round here. So I'm going to take that opportunity at this point in time. Out in Hilo, is Kalani Lyman still there?
He's right here.
Kalani, you still there?
Yeah, yeah.
The only reason I want go ahead, have a seat there at the table, Mr. Lyman. And the only reason I want to call Kalani forward is this, you know, Mr. Kida several times has made mention to the fact that we believe people on Mill Road does not support what we're doing as eminent domain, and it is my, you know, as a representative of the area and certainly someone that has had 2 meetings out in Popeye Cove where we practically filled that gym. There were 300 people there, you know, which well over, 75 to 80% of them was wearing armbands supporting the eminent domain. And being that you from Popeye Cove, could you, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, you know, in speaking with the people out there and certainly being there at the public meeting, eye to eye with the community in Popeye Cove, were there people from outside? Yes, but the people that were there as a representative of that area for 12 years were Popeye Cove people, I'll tell you that right now. So, Mr. Lyman, would you clarify whether or not the statements made by Mr. Ikeda is correct that the people along Mill Road does not support this eminent domain process? You as a Popeye Cove member and as family with there and a relative that's been living there for generations, including the 2 Langs that have come forward and spoke on with 4 different generations, could you tell me whether that statement is correct by Mr. Ikeda?
No, it's not. Because majority of the people on the Mill Camp Road support the eminent domain, but we also support regulating the rules, and we want to be part of this process to move forward. 2 years ago, Dominic, when we first saw you, you told us to form a community organization, a Silverton Camp. With these people, the Johnsons, good people, we had the meetings at their home, and majority of the people support this. We know parking, all that's going to be a problem. But if you're athletic and you can make the hike, walk them on down. Everybody else has been doing it for the last year or 2, and so far it's been good right now. In the past, there was a problem, but for the last 2 years or so, it's been pretty good. People, the young kids, I talk to them every time they pass by, and I tell them we gotta start taking care of the place, and we tell them the rules, stay off the road, get permission from the people. It's gotten a lot better than it was 10 years ago. So we can't be bringing up the past. Just like I was told, we gotta move forward. And this is the only way we can move forward. And all the council members who's out there at Popeye Cove, I can tell you, 75 to 80% of those people at the gym was from Popeye Cove.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lyman. With that said, we're going to do the final, because we're going to take a vote on this real soon. So if there's any final comment from Hilo, and then I'll come back to Koma, and then we're going to go to the vote. Mr. Nishi or Mr. Yoshimoto, any final comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go right ahead, Mr. Yoshimoto.
Okay. Just going to summarize what I'm hearing. Things have gotten better. We've seen that, and it sounds like the property owner is doing something that would be consistent with what the county would do. The difference is, of course, whether you would have to work with the county or with Mrs. Prickett. I recognize Mr. Pelago's comments about this memorandum of agreement is not a covenant. It's not with the deed. So, that might be a sticking point. But I'm just trying to be practical in terms of making sure the public, has the access that it deserves, and making things simpler for everyone. And so it sounds like we made a lot of progress, but my difficulty lies in the fact that there's so many different viewpoints, and that's good. But at the same point, there's not just this side and that side. There's like this side, that side, this side, and that side. So that's I know this has gone on for a long time, and people want to make a decision today, and I can respect that. But my gut instinct tells me that to continue to talk, because we are making progress. Like Mr. Lyman said, that they are making progress. But I respect what he says too, that they just want to move forward, and I completely understand that. I did want to bring up Mr. Berger, because I was talking to him outside, and just to see if he has any perspective he wanted to share. Mr. Berger, but not too long, because I do want to.
Actually, I'm only here to answer your questions.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
If you please.
Well, having listened to this and researched this a little bit, what is your take on the current situation now as it appears today as far as the access to the beach, and how it would change, if any, if the county were to purchase the land?
Okay. Well, you
To
and
the
I,
mic, to the mic.
excuse me, I'm sorry. You and I have spoken about the legal perspective, and we see there's no issue with respect to us being able to, when I say us, excuse me, the county being able to go forward with eminent domain. What seems to be the issues are the basic issues. Are we going to be able to find parking? Are we going to have showers? Ms. Litet, excuse me, I just forgot her name in a second. Thank you. And I'm sorry, did you call Ms. Prickett up? Because she's been here this whole time. Okay. All right. She mentioned fencing, signage, guardrails, the kinds of things that would happen after we do an eminent domain. These things cannot be put within an eminent domain action. We've got properties right on that road that are not being occupied. There are areas. I am a surfer. I'm a lawyer. I'm a surfer. I'm a landowner. I do understand her situation. However, all these other issues are not seriously difficult issues. And you know what? Ultimately, you could pick a million different ways to decide how this property, how you're going to create eminent domain. We've looked at the most reasonable. I've been going down this road 10 years now. I've been going down this walkway 10 years. That is the best way to get down there. I mean, you could make something up. You could spend a whole lot of money creating this. I'm talking about the standard walkway that we've always been using, and that everybody's been talking to about during the last 5 meetings. I'm not sure what you would like me to talk about. I've heard a lot of things, and I think I've said enough.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just maybe two other people. Ms. Prickett.
Sir.
I think you heard Mr. Pelago's comments about the memorandum of agreement not running with the land, so it's not legally binding.
Yeah, no. This was.
So the question is this.
It wasn't meant to be.
Right.
It wasn't. It's not. It's not what we weren't trying to build the covenant that Councilman Pelago wants. It simply was a starting place.
So that seems to be the tipping point or the breaking point for people, because they want something that they can count on, so that it's not discretionary on your part. So the question, I guess, to you is this: would you be willing to do something like that, a covenant or some kind of contractual thing that runs with the land, that's consistent with what you have?
Not with this particular trail. No, not.
Okay.
And I need to make it clear too that our interest in working with the Public and Open Spaces Fund is for the alternate route that we proposed and the bottom land that we would sell with it.
Right. I mean, and that's similar to the drawing that was presented to us today.
That's not an architectural drawing that Malcolm did, but yeah, he's got the gist of it.
Okay, and I completely understand that too. I mean, we would want to have parking for the safety and for all the other reasons that we already know. Okay.
And the connectivity with other accesses that may be required if the adjacent parcel is in any way developed.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Yoshimoto?
Yes, Mr. Ikeda wants to move again.
Okay, one second. Mr. Nishi, you have the floor, and I'm going to come back to Kona. Go ahead, Mr. Nishi, if you'd like to.
Mr. Onishi has left the room.
Okay, well, let's come back here to Kona then. Anyone else before we? Nobody else? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Ikeda, you have the final word, and we're going to go to the vote.
Well, I was going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to postpone this resolution 308 until the Hamakua CDP is completed.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to postpone until the Hamakua CDP is completed. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, second by Mr. Yoshimoto. So the motion on the floor is to postpone until the Hamakua CDP is completed. Mr. Ikeda, you have the floor?
Yes, I think, like I've heard all the time, whether it's Puna or Kau or Kona, whatever, that you want to follow the CDP, and I think the CDP is addressing this particular part, and I believe they are looking at parking and so forth, and I think we should give them an opportunity. Right now, I think there's too many, blank things that we need to fill in, you know, like parking, waters and so forth, and, it seems like we don't have a good handle. I'm sure like the people that live on 17 or Mill Road could make, some kind of agreement with, Charlene whereby they can access her property.
Yeah,
But-
we've offered that.
Yeah, and all other people could use the other side with that, with the extra parking and so forth. So they would go down the other trail, so anyone, would be convenient for anyone that lives on Mill Road. And, this is where I'm saying, Mr. Lyman, you can belong to the group where you can get a key to go down wherever you want. And so, but then the other people can always go the other side and they can park their cars and go night fishing or whatever they want. And, you know, it's gonna be open access, so I think right now it's premature. I know everybody wants to get it passed, but I don't think it's quite ready because the department's, kind of had some problems with this.
Okay,
particular-
let's stick to the motion to hold them back until the CDP is completed.
Yes, and this is what I'm getting at, because, it seems like there's a lot of things that, they have to work out, and right now they haven't worked it out. With that, I'll yield.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor to postpone? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, on the motion to postpone?
Ms. Ford?
No.
Mr. Hoffman?
No.
Mr. Ikeda?
Aye.
Mr. Nishi?
Excuse?
Mr. Pilago?
No.
Ms. Smart? No. Yoshimoto?
Aye.
There you go.
No.
There you go, you have 2 ayes.
Okay, we're back to the main motion, to approve resolution 308-12, draft 2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Ms. Ford? Aye. Mr. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Ikeda?
No.
Mr. Pilago?
Aye.
Ms. Smart? Aye. Ms. Yoshimoto?
Kanalua, no.
Was that Kanalua and a no?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your vote, Mr. Yoshimura, please?
Kanalua, no.
Oh, Kanalua, no, Madam Clerk.
Chair?
Aye.
We have 5 ayes.
Okay, resolution 308-12, draft 2, passes second and final reading. With that said, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back, in 5 minutes. Thank you.